Hello, and welcome to our weekly LinkedIn Live Leadership Series, Voices of Leadership. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Kathy Eastwood, your host and the founder and CEO of E equals Y. Each week, we dive into the fascinating world of leadership, focusing on various leaders from different generations, industries, and backgrounds. There is no right way to lead. It's all about being authentic, aware, and consistently guiding our teams to deliver results. We achieve all of this through the E3 Leadership Code, expressing the vision, engaging effectively, and executing with precision, all powered by emotional qualities. As we meet each leader, we'll uncover what drives them, exploring their unique leadership style, core values, and the experiences that have shaped their approach, as well as their adaptability in diverse situations. Before we get started, I invite everyone to introduce themselves in the comments so we know where you're from. If you want to share your LinkedIn profile, it gives you an opportunity to meet other people that are thinking about leadership as well. We'll also address as many questions you might have throughout the discussion. So now let me introduce you to our guest today, Tracy Loring, a good friend, a strong leader, and an amazing artist. Some of you may have already met Tracy in one of our boot camps. We're so excited to have you here, Tracy. So,
Thank
Tracy
you.
is a coach, an artist, and an instructor with a passion for helping people tap into their most authentic selves. She has over 25 years' experience in talent development and growing and leading teams in the tech industry. She specializes in leadership development and team effectiveness. In addition to her private coaching practice, Tracy is an executive and team coach with E equals Y. And I love working beside her because she brings so much energy to the game and so much experience. And so, Tracy also lives in New York, but she's upstate, so a little further north, with her husband, her daughter, and two fur babies. So, Tracy, welcome. So excited that
Thank
you're here.
you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited about this series.
Absolutely. We've talked about it a lot, right? As we've started to
Yeah.
to plan for different things and really getting to that point of helping hear different voices, right? And learning from them. So we've talked about this a lot. You're very familiar with who I am. I'm a nurturing driver, right? I love to get things done by caring about others. My personal mission in life is to inspire and enable people to accomplish things they didn't think was possible. You'll hear me talk a lot about thinking idealistic and not realistically,
Mhm.
knowing that anything's possible. No one wakes up with bad intent, and MTXE, mental toughness, extra effort. My own non-negotiables include constant feedback, trust first, and having a lot of fun. If I'm not having fun, I'm not going to be happy. So, and my leadership style is situational leadership. So, Tracy, I'd love to hear more. And why don't you tell us about your story and where you come from and your values, et cetera?
Sure. Thanks for that. Well, it's so great to hear you walk through that quick summary because there's so many elements of that I identify with as well. In terms of my leadership style, it has evolved over the years. And I've landed at a place where, like you mentioned, it truly is situational. If I had to use one word to describe my leadership style, it would probably be flexible or
Mm,
adaptable. And, that has been a skill that I've had to grow over the years because it's funny because you're wearing yellow today and I'm wearing predominantly red. And
that's
so
funny.
for folks that are really familiar with the Clarity 4D model that looks at different energies that we bring to the table, my natural center of gravity, and you can see my hands moving, is to be in that yellow energy space, which is big picture, high energy, positive. What are we going to get done? Where are we going? How can we do it together? I have a lot of green energy, which is about people, and I care deeply about the people that I work with. I care about what they want in their lives and in their careers. I care about how that impacts our customers. I care about how that impacts our stakeholders, and just people in general is a big focus for me. And so those are my center of gravities, if you will, where I tend to approach leadership from. But what I've learned over the years is not everybody looks at the world the same way I do. Not everybody approaches leadership or the work that they're doing the same way that I might. And so I have learned how to modulate. And I've actually gotten feedback over the last few years that people have a hard time pinpointing what my energy is when I'm interacting with them, because I tend to just instinctively modulate to wherever they're coming from. So if I'm working with someone that is very direct, that wants answers quickly, I'm going to get to the point, give them a summary. Here's what's going on. Here's what I need. Here's the outcomes you can expect, that sort of a thing. If I'm lucky enough to have someone with yellow energy, it's just a fun candy store ride for me, because there's often whiteboarding and there's big picture ideas and what could it look like and where could it be in all of this. And so modulating my energy to be the appropriate energy to match the person I'm working with is something that I've learned as a skill over time. And then when it comes to groups, you never know who you have in a group. And so it's often sort of shifting and moving and navigating your way through to really connect with each person. And I think that's something as a leader I've strived to cultivate over time, is my ability to connect with each person and really get to the heart of what matters to them. I think about my values, and I use this word truth a lot. I kind of consider myself a truth speaker. That's sort of my motto, if you will. As a coach, I think that's an important part as well, because part of my job as a coach is to reflect back things that the person I'm working with may not be seeing for themselves. And so truth to me is an umbrella term that really looks at authenticity, honesty, integrity. I have a mission and a passion to help leaders bring their most authentic selves to the workplace. And what a wonderful world it would be if we could show up every day true to who we are and create space for the people that we're working with to be true to themselves as well. And so that's really what drives me in working with leaders, in being a leader, and doing the work that we've done together in E=Y, just to create a space where we can be that. We spend so much of our time and energy focused on the work that we do. Wouldn't it be great if we could do it in a way that aligns with who we are, instead of trying to put on a facade or be someone we're not, or do all the things we think we should do, as opposed to the things that are really true for us.
Yeah, there's so much in there, so much goodness in there, Tracy. I'd love to unpack some of it. So you talk about the authentic leadership style. I remember we were actually doing a boot camp, and one of the leaders said to us afterwards, and he was like, "Oh my God, I thought there was a mold that I had to,
Mm.
mirror. That this is to be a leader, you have to do this." And in reality, what he took away from that was, wow, no, if the more I am myself, the more authentic I am, the better I can connect with others and the easier it is to build that trust, which is ultimately what you want to do, right? As a leader, is build that
Yeah.
trust so people are jumping in quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you kicked us off with there's no right way. You
Yeah.
know, I think for a lot of years, I'm my own biggest judge and my own biggest critic, as we all are, I
Hmm.
imagine. But I thought leadership had to look a certain way, and I was thinking back to some of the questions that I was prepared for you to ask me today. And if it's okay, I'll just jump into one of
Go
them,
for it.
which is, some of the worst experiences I've had with a boss. And I reflected back to a time early in my career, and it was a very small company. And the person that I was reporting to at the time, high energy. Like, I imagine this person probably has a lot of red energy. That sort of direct, get it done, out of the way, get all the obstacles out of the way. And in a lot of ways, that was really helpful. And he was really great at removing obstacles for me. But where it was a challenge was I wasn't sure if he was going to fly off the handle. So
Mm,
in our one-on-ones, I was leading a function, an education function, customer facing education function for this business that was revenue generating. And it was the first time the business had done this. And so I would bring reports with here's what's going on. I had to engage with sales leaders and work with them to try and sell the services that I was providing. And, it was an uphill battle in some situations. This was new. People weren't sure. It was a new part of the industry. And there was more than one occasion where I came to share a challenge, and my leader immediately picked up the phone and started scolding the other person that I was talking about or having a challenge with, and I just wanted to share and explore options. And they wanted to jump into solution. And looking back at it now, I imagine the intention was very positive. They were trying to support me. They were trying to do everything that they could
mhm.
to remove obstacles, right? But, what the impact that left on me was, again, this feeling that I couldn't be myself because that
Yeah.
wasn't who I was, right? And so this was a formative experience in my career, looking at an example of what leadership looked like at that level and expecting that that was how I needed to be. And then sort of feeling like I was always judging myself because I wasn't that. And I wasn't a good leader if I wasn't that. And if I tried to be that, I failed miserably. And so it was really interesting to have that experience. And at the time, I didn't have the skills to push back,
Mm,
to say, you know what, here's what I really need from you in our one on ones. I don't need you to pick up the phone right now. What I need you to do is help me think through this challenge and how I can best address it myself. And so, again, being so inexperienced at that time, I didn't have the skills to really know what I wanted in some ways and ask for it.
yeah, I like that asking for it because when you were talking first and describing what you love and your energies, right? You said that you have a lot of yellow energy. That's where you start, but that you've really been able to modulate between other people's energy, and so you're interacting with them. But when you're under stress,
Hmm.
that's when you show up as your authentic self, and you can adapt and move out of your zone of genius, if you will. But you have to be aware. And so when you're aware of those elements of what's going to happen in stress or in moments or what you need, like you with this boss, the better you can create that trust and that working relationship earlier. Right. So you and
Yeah.
I, one of the first exercises we did our leadership profiles. Right. We
Hmm.
sat down and we defined what is our leadership style? What is our mission? What's our values? Because then very quickly I got to know you and you were teaching me how to better interact with you and vice versa. And
Yep.
that's that
Yep.
authentic, right? It's knowing, you know, where you get your energy. And when you're authentic, you're going to show up better. And communicating with others and teaching them that is an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember working with someone. I had a coaching engagement with them, and I remember them asking me a question, and it was, they said, I'm a very introverted person, and people are telling me that I need to share things about myself with my team, and I don't feel comfortable doing that.
Hmm.
Do I have to do that? And it was a great conversation because we always have choice, 100%. We always have choice. And so my response was, you don't have to. But the road to building the trust with your team, if the end result is to create this high performing organization, you're going to get there quicker if you do, even if it pushes you out of your comfort zone. So if you're thinking about what your end result is, what you're going for, then you can make decisions that align to that, even when they're not comfortable for us. And so knowing that going into it is super powerful. And I think, the profile is an exercise to really just ask ourselves some of those questions and get the clarity around what those things are for us makes it easy for us to communicate that with others. And, as an ideator, I have had several iterations of teams where I've gone in to say, look, let me tell you a little bit about me. I love to have these big picture ideas. They're not directives.
Right.
And I will preface by saying I'm just ideating right now. I'm also a verbal processor, which means I like to talk things through. And I've had to learn how to do that effectively with my team,
Mm-hmm.
what to do in a group situation and what not to, and all of these things. But the more I know about myself, the more I can say, hey, team, here's how I am. This is where I'm coming from. So I can show up authentically and not try to be somebody I'm not, but they know where I'm coming from and what to expect.
Yeah. And I give permission, if they feel
Mm,
like I'm attacking or, because I've got all that red
yeah.
energy, right? And it comes across as bossy sometimes or very demanding, right? It's perceived in a negative way unless I've been able to tell people. And that's the first thing. I'm a nurturing driver. I want to get things done, but I'm going to do it
Hmm.
because I care. And then I try to have someone with a lot of green energy that's very empathetic, right? Because they can remind me, they're like, Kat, that's not how that came across. I know your intent was good, but that is not how it showed up. And I'm like, oh, okay. Thank you for telling me because I thought it was fine, but that's not what I intended. So, and it's one of the reasons we ask everyone to do the E3 leadership profile. And I'll ask Imelda if she can actually put the link in case anyone wants to look at
Mm-hmm.
it, because it's just a structured way to go about and find out what is authentically you and how do you show up and how do you want to. And it's a
Yeah.
powerful exercise.
Yeah.
So
And I love that it creates the space for a conversation as well, because, you're going to do this and you can ask the members of your team to do it also. So then it becomes a conversation about, oh, how does that show up for you? Or when you're stressed, what does that look like? And then how can I best support you through that? So now we're getting to know each other. And instead of taking things personally, we can go, ooh, I wonder, is Kathy under stress right now? And then I can say, hey, is there something going on? Is there something I can do to support you? Here's what I'm seeing, and this is why I'm asking. I'm curious. It becomes a conversation and driven more by curiosity versus judgment or reaction.
yeah. And that's really strong advice for leaders, right? To ask questions, what's going on, and being curious
Mm,
and being courageous. Sorry. That is something that so many times we're scared to have the difficult conversations. I hear a lot of people scared of showing their personal side, right? They're like, oh, this is
mm-hmm,
a business workplace. I shouldn't
mm-hmm,
share anything too personal. And also cultures. It's interesting. I see Didmar is on from London, and I've worked with a couple of folks in England, and they were like, nope, I'm not doing this. This is uncomfortable
yeah,
to try to go in,
mm-hmm,
and then to share it with someone. It's really interesting to once they did it, they're like, oh my gosh, this was not comfortable. But I'm thrilled I do it because now I feel closer to the team. I feel like you know me better. And again, it goes back to that trust, right? Once you have that trust in the team, it just is easier to ask to do some of the harder things, right? And know what's going to motivate people and explain it the way they want to hear it.
exactly, exactly, yeah.
Um, so what are some other things or experiences you've had of managing people with different energies or different points of
Mm.
view, different industries? Do you have any success stories of how you've had to adapt?
Yeah, great question. So my going back to energies, I've got my blocks behind me. You might be able to notice that blue is at the bottom of my stack. And blue folks that lead with blue energy tend to like to have a plan, and they like to know the plan, and they like to know the timeline, and they like the details. And that is not something that comes naturally to me. I have to work at that to get to that level. I'm more of a, we know where we're going. Let's go. We'll figure it out and learn on the way. Trial, by learn by doing. Sort of is the approach that, if left to my own devices, I love to take. And so I was thinking back to someone that I had early on in my career, and I've had a couple of folks in my career who have come to the table with a lot of blue energy, and in particular, onboarding them. Because onboarding somebody with a lot of blue energy is going to want to know what the milestones are, what the steps are, what the links are to the things that need to be read, what are the expectations. And it is a challenge for me to kind of dig into that level of detail. But in a lot of ways, I was grateful that I needed to do it because it helped crystallize and highlight some of the things in the process that weren't really well thought out. So it gave me an opportunity to do that. But I've had a few leaders in my teams over time that have come with that sort of energy. And in fact, one of the things that I've looked for when I'm building out a leadership team, if I have the luxury of choosing my own team, which we don't always do, I look for folks who are going to bring that balance. So, like you mentioned, having that balance with the green energy, I'm looking for the blue because the blue is going to help me get out of the clouds. It's going to help me really focus on things that are doable and actionable. And what I can bring to the table is helping to see the big picture and the vision and communicate and paint the story and help influence the business around what we're trying to achieve. And my leaders that are bringing those other elements of that energy can help balance that out and make sure that it's actually doable and can push back. And to your point, giving permission to say, bring me down to
Yep.
earth if I'm floating too far up here. So I think a lot of my journey as a leader has been about self exploration. The more I learn about myself, the more I can get out of my own way
Mm.
and create the space for others to shine and do the great work that they want to do. I've really learned when I've tripped up as a leader, and I've tripped up a lot, it's because I've been in my own way
Mm.
and I haven't been true to myself. I've been trying to please or trying to do things a certain way or trying to navigate things in a way that wasn't true for me, and it ended up creating the thing I was trying to avoid, which is a team that didn't trust me.
Mm.
So I've had a lot of learnings over that, and so the more I've learned about myself, the more work I've done on myself, the better my leadership has grown because I can be more true to myself, be more authentic, and like I said, get out of my own way and therefore out of everybody else's way too.
Yeah, no, that's really powerful. You know, I often say if I had to pick one attribute for a leader, I would say it's awareness, right? Being able to do
Mm,
that self exploration, look for the blind spots, see how you show up to others, how people perceive you, because your intent, but is that how it's showing up? And so I
yeah,
always say that's like the superpower for leadership is, I mean, there's a lot more, don't get me wrong, but if you were to master one thing to start, I think that's because then that does drive the authenticity, right? It gives you
hmm
the courage and the curiosity then to keep learning more and more. And that's how you improve.
absolutely. And I think about this in terms of a parent as well. So I became a parent very late in my life, in my 40s, late 40s. And so I've learned a lot about myself, but also about guiding and creating a space for my child to grow and explore. And one of the things I learned really early on is the best thing I can do for my child as a parent is to be the best version of myself.
Mm.
And I feel like that's something that really came to me as a leader as well. The best thing I can do for myself as a leader and for my team is to be the best version of me that I can. Because when I'm the best version of myself, I'm more authentic. I'm more true to me. I'm more clear. I'm more direct. I'm more regulated in my nervous system in my body. That means I can think more clearly. I can communicate more clearly. I'm more creative. All of these things are there, and therefore I can show up in the best way and truly be of service to my team. And so that's sort of been a driver for me as a parent and as a carryover from leadership is to be the best version of myself so I can be of most service to whoever it is I'm working for,
Yeah.
working with, and caring for. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And it's knowing what those differences are, right? How it shows up. We've talked a lot today about Clarity 4D or our energies. I'm actually going to ask Imelda to maybe share the link on a little more about Clarity 4D because it is one of the assessment tools. That's a great way to do the self exploration, right? To understand. You're also a coach for, I think, the Clifton Strengths, right? So
Yes.
there's a lot of assessment tools that really help you do that exploration, and also doing 360 reviews, getting direct
Hmm.
feedback from people. That self exploration is so important. It's scary at times because you're going to hear things that you're like, "Ooh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know I was doing that." Okay.
Yeah.
um,
Or to your point earlier, things might come across in a way that we don't intend.
yep, agreed.
Yeah.
I know I've told you this story a million times, but that higher energy comes across as bossy. And so my family, it really shows up under stress when my family's together. Like, my father passed away recently and like that's stressful. So I was bossy as could be. I was like, "Ah, blah, 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 blah." And my family's like, "Oh, geez." I'm like, okay, we're going to have a code word to be able to say, too much. So it's funny once then I shared it with them and they know how to
Mm.
react now. They know I mean well, but sometimes in stress, that's what's going to show up. So we talked about a couple of different things of differences, the energies, the cultures, right, is something else that can be very different.
Mhm.
Managing younger people, right,
Mhm.
from us because we're baby boomers. So,
I'm an
now,
Xer.
oh, you're an Xer. That's right. That's right. See, but we're so aware of what's going on. It's just knowing that, provides so much value.
Mhm.
So we're getting down to the bottom of the half
Mhm.
hour. Time goes very
Went
quickly
by
when we're chatting.
quickly.
I
Yeah.
know. I love chatting with you. Any advice you would give to leaders today? If there's one or two things that they could do, what would you recommend?
Such a great question. I think it goes back to taking a beat and really thinking about who you want to be as a leader. What's the mark that you want to leave? What's the feeling that you want people to leave your presence with? And really getting clear about what that is. And then taking the steps that are true to you that align to that particular vision. I think often we think about what the business needs from us. And absolutely, that's part of our job is to deliver results. But we don't always take a moment to take a step back and go, who do I want to be? And does that align with how I'm acting today? If it is, awesome. Keep doing that. Keep asking it and keep doing it. If it doesn't, this is your opportunity to take a step back and go, okay, what do I need to change? What do I need to learn? What do I need to unlearn
Mm,
that helps me align? Because again, you know, this is our lives that we're living. And the more true we are to ourselves and who we want to be, the more of service we are to that, the more of service we're going to be to the business, to our teams, to our stakeholders, to our customers, and everyone we interact with.
I think that's fantastic advice. So
Mhm.
I hope you'll come back and we can talk more because this time seems to go so fast. But I just wanted to thank you, and
Thank
we'll talk
you.
soon. All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I loved it. I had a great time, great chat, always.
Great. Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Bye.